We get to talking about gamification. The key point I want to start with is gamification is one tool or technique that's part of an overall comprehensive strategy for employee engagement. It's not an end within itself. All right, so let's get into gamification and how that plays into this big picture of engagement. Remember I showed you this hierarchy of effects of moving employees to a cycle of educating them, seeing the relevance, being committed to changing their behavior, and actually the behavior change. Gamification is one of the only tactics that transcends every phase of that cycle. Gamification can educate, it can inspire, it creates excitement, changes behavior, and recognizes and rewards. So you can bring an employee through that entire cycle with a well-designed gamification program. And it was interesting to me to find out in some of the statistics that the average age of gamers is 37 years old. So we're not talking about 19 and 20-year-olds that are into this. You know, we're talking about upward 40 years old are people that are really playing games today. So this is why gamification is such an important element of overall employee engagement plan. So what is gamification? In 2012, Oxford actually added the word gamification to its list of definitions. And here's how they define it. It's the application of concepts and techniques from games to other areas of activity. So it's taking gaming techniques and putting them into a not-so-game-friendly business environment. It's taking gaming techniques into a non-game type application. It's a combination of game mechanics and game dynamics. I'm going to share some information with you about motivation. But gamification takes the fundamental human needs and desires, the things that motivate people, reward, status, achievement, self-expression, and marries it to the game dynamics of challenges, levels, point accumulation, leaderboards. So it's the actions, behaviors, and controls that actually gamify an activity, to create an engaging experience. Those two things together form gamification. So why do employees participate? First of all, status. Titles mean something. You know, how many people, if you go and you get your CPA certificate, the first thing you do after your name is put CPA. You know, if you pass the bar exam, titles are important. They mean something. They're an indication of achievement. So employees participate because gamification gives them an ability to attain status. Recognition and appreciation. And recognition and appreciation that's immediate. I just saw the little book you had on performance evaluations. There's more and more debate that annual performance evaluations just don't seem to cut it. For an employee to go an entire year and then get called into the office and say you did a lousy job, people want more instant gratification. They want more instant feedback. Gamification gives them that immediate recognition and appreciation. They know if they're doing it right or not. They know if they're being recognized. Early and exclusive access. It's interesting that one of the cheapest things for a company to provide for employees, and yet one of the things that are often guarded the most, is information about what the company stands for and what the vision is. Employees, every survey I've ever seen on what makes employees loyal to a company and feel part of an organization is they want to know what's going on. They want to feel part of the organization. So gamification allows employees to have easy and early access to information. Power, it gives you some knowledge is power. And when I share some of the examples of gamification, you'll see the more you equip employees with knowledge, the more power they feel to go out and advocate for your brand and advocate for your company. Have any of you ever given a presentation? I remember somebody asked me if I've done a lot of presentations. Being a marketer and an accountant, I've had some really diverse groups. And I can tell you that as a marketer, if I stand and make a presentation in front of accountants, everything I say is truth. But when I stand in front of a bunch of marketers, I'm nervous. I mean, they'll know if what I'm saying isn't valid or not, right? Power in information. If I know what I'm talking about, I'm much more confident advocating for the brand, advocating for the company. And gamification equips them with information. Community impact is a great opportunity in gamification for people to give back to their communities, to help each other out, to show a benevolence, to being part of a community. So those things drive people over why they want to participate in these things. So let's look at a couple cases. Live ops.
like call center, virtual call center.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a different dimension than anything I've showed you so far. It's a provider of cloud-based contact center technology. They use independent agents who have complete authority and a very distributed workforce. So they added gamification. I don't have any screenshots of any of the mechanics of it, but I just show you the results. They added gamification to their online employee portal. 80% of their agents opted into the program. 75% return on a bi-weekly basis. And look at the impact on training. The onboarding process dropped from 4 weeks of classroom training to 14 hours by implementing the gamified approach. 10% improvement in service levels. So remember that connection between the customer loyalty and the employee engagement. 15% reduction in the average time to handle a customer inquiry. And an 8 to 12% improvement in sales performance. The same content of training delivered in a fun and engaging way instead of a traditional computer-based learning or classroom training. So really powerful demonstration of the impact a good gamification program can have. 2 more slides. Let's talk about 12 must-haves to succeed with gamification. You've got to have a solid gamification strategy, and a lot of this is summary of everything we've talked about, but there has to be a solid strategy, not just throwing up a leaderboard. Somebody has to own the project. This goes back to some of your questions you have. Someone has to be responsible for developing it and owning the content and making sure that it's right accurately. You have to look at the collaboration. If you're trying to create a consistent employee experience, again, HR, marketing, communications, learning and development, whoever needs to be involved in designing the game and activate, you've got to make sure that collaboration is done up front. Leadership buy-in, I've already talked about. If you don't have leadership buy-in, it probably won't sustain because it'll be perceived as pure gaming for entertainment. Field testing. Important to test this before you roll it out to the masses and make sure that all the bugs are worked out. Legal approval, the issue earlier. You know, when you're sharing information, legal is going to definitely want to get involved to make sure that you're not sharing things you shouldn't be sharing. Employees or customers. So you have to cross that tick mark. Weekly update meetings. It's important that when you're designing this, that you're consistently getting together with the right people and making sure that things are on track and you're designing it according to specifications. Task accountability, who's doing what. Launch the communication plan. They can't play if they don't know about it. So you've got to have a comprehensive communication plan explaining to employees what you're trying to accomplish, how they play the game, how they engage in it, how they earn points. So that's important to develop that. A beta test. Test it to make sure all the bugs are out. Schedule for enhancements and updates. Make sure that there's a routine where you're going to make sure that the content's current, content's updated. And then finally, post-launch field testing and assessment. You know, it's a continuous flow of making sure that you're testing how it's working and doing assessment.